Hi, everyone. Good evening. I'm Jeremy. I'm going to give everyone a few minutes to arrive. Welcome. If you're already here, feel free to say hello in the chat and let us know where you're joining from. It's always fun to see how many different countries and different rooms we can hit, different cities. We're going to be together for about 45 minutes. Going to be doing some breath work. Hello from Canada. Hi, Helen from New Jersey. Jill from Florida. Going to be learning about the nervous system. We're going to be learning a little bit about our bodies in daily life. I work inside of surgery during the day. I have a role during spine surgery, letting the surgeon know what's happening with the nervous system in real time. And I've been doing that for about 10 years. And then over the last few years, I have developed sort of this practice outside of the OR that is all about using the same sorts of signals, all these electrical signals. Electrical signals happening in our bodies, electrical signals happening in our environments, and really this interaction and this noticing that we can sometimes do. Hey, Matt from Atlanta. I'm also in Atlanta. To kind of bring ourselves into the moment and maybe check in onto what's happening in the system overall. And so sometimes we can get lost in our day, can get lost in our thinking, we can get lost in a task, especially at work. And so this is an opportunity to kind of practice in this space together. And then when we're outside of this space, what ends up happening with the brain, funnily enough, is that things that you wire a certain time, if you wire them enough times, they do happen more often. So wonderful. Welcome, Jan. I appreciate everybody being here. You can go ahead and start arriving and just, there's not a reminder is that there's no proper way to do anything here tonight. This is a total like come as you are, be as you are, bring everything with you, including all of your day that you had with you, that you've done so far, bring it with you and let it be part of the session with us here. And we'll kind of see and maybe use a curious tone to kind of check in on those different systems. And so one of the first systems that I like to start with is, oh, hey there, from the Pacific Northwest. Just taking in the room that you're in. So we're always taking in signals from the environment. And a lot of times we're taking in these signals, and one of the biggest ones is light. And so you might, as you're settling in there and still arriving, you might just try to check in and check into the light that's around you. And what does that mean, check into it? Well, is it natural light coming in through a window? Is it lamp light? Is it maybe an LED with a certain color? And we're just noticing, what's the light like here? Knowing that you've already made the choice to be wherever you are for the next 45 minutes or so. And so all day we're making these small choices as soon as we get up. And a lot of times they're small enough that they go unnoticed. But what sometimes happens is we can bring ourselves into this noticing of those small choices. And then that may allow us some insight into what's happening with our nervous system. Because a lot of these signals often correspond to each other. And so it's not that certain areas are tension here equals tension there in your body, but it might be able to signal into the wiring that it lives on just to see what's there. And sometimes noticing is enough. Noticing is enough in one system of breath or of body to signal a change in kind of the overall system. And so that environment is one of those systems that we're always taking in. And so you're taking in the light, and you might take in maybe 3 shapes that you can find around the room. Maybe easy shapes, squares, circles. They're your shapes. No right answers. And you might find 3 colors. Maybe any colors. Colors on your shapes. a combination of colors. And you're just noticing. And there you might let your eyesight widen a little bit. And by widening, you might just let it soften. Check into your eyes. And don't scan the room, but maybe find a few items, neutral, and just letting yourself settle into this room, this space. Whether there's a car, a room, in your bed, just checking into what's already here. Your system's already been picking it up, and we're just noticing it. And we're still arriving. And so you're just being exactly as you are. And you might start to take in how you are in your space. You might take in what floor of a building or a house, or if you're on the road, if you're on the ground. How high are you in space right now? And you might start to take in sounds that you can hear. Sound is another nerve-related thing that our body's always doing. Brain is always picking up signals through our ears, through our bones. These conduction signals going into our brain, being read, and then we hear the sound. And so we can notice faraway sounds, near sounds. Maybe see if you can identify the farthest sound away. Something that's way in the distance, maybe just barely there. And you might try to see if you can sense something that's a little closer. Maybe not in the room, maybe in the house, in the building, the loved ones nearby. And we're just noticing sound. And we're letting our eyes do what they want. And we're letting our thoughts do what they want. And see, we may be thinking already, we may be planning. We may totally be into what we were just in, still. We're just arriving. And so if you drift into thought, just gently return back. Return back to your eyes. Return back to your body and the sounds. These are two layers of the nervous system that are always working for us. They're scanning. Our eyes are always scanning the environment. One of the interesting things I learned about the nervous system when I started working with it is that our eyes are some of the quickest muscles in the body. They're moving so fast all the time. And when we're tense, they may feel like they're moving too fast. And we may start to feel like there's a tightness or there's a sensation around our eyes. And that might be a signal. And so right now we're going to make a few small choices. One of them is going to be with our eyes. And for the next few minutes, we're going to just decide and continue to have them open. You can drop them a little if you haven't already. And just letting a little less input into the system. Light is a major signal. And so we have a choice with our eyelids at this moment. How much can come in? If you want to, you might try to let your eyelids drop all the way down and close your eyes. And if you have them closed, you might notice your breath here and how it's arriving on its own. And don't change it. You see, you made a choice with your eyes. And having our eyes closed is a signal to the system of safety. We're safe enough to have our eyes closed. It's signaling you don't need to work right now for us, eyes. Thank you. And so sometimes that shifts us. Maybe it shifts us right into thinking. Maybe we were already there. You see, these are electrical signals too, our thoughts. And so we have signals coming from our eyes, maybe quickly. And so maybe we notice our thoughts are quick too. No need to change it if they are. We're just going to check in and notice what the system's doing. These five senses. They're really doorways into our nervous system. You know, some of these areas of our body, our eyes, our hands in particular, they actually take up a lot more room of our brain than some of the other areas of our body. And definitely some of the areas that involve thinking and planning. But they do live on a different layer than that thinking and planning, just right next door. And so with our eyes, if we can check in there and we can sense, what am I noticing here? What am I noticing as far as effort in my eyes? Is there too much light in this room? Is it too bright? Is it not bright enough and I'm needing to squint, strain? What's it feel like to have a level of ease in your eyes and they can rest? And there may be a balance there. There may be over-efforting happening right now. Maybe under-efforting and they feel heavy, maybe too heavy. Either's okay. We're just noticing our eyes. And one of the next things that we can do is we can check into one of those major areas of our brain, this motor cortex, and our hands take up a huge portion of this special area of the brain. We have signals going from our hands to that area, sending sensation, our feeling, heat, temperature, texture. And it's actually doing a lot more. It has a lot of orienting with our eyes about what's happening. And so we can use them as tools into our nervous system. And a lot of times, especially in tense moments in a surgery, you'll have a surgeon that'll pause and he'll check his hands. And they're working with their hands all day for multiple hours, very intense, very delicate work. And why are they checking their hands? So at their hands, they're able to sense in. How much electricity is happening right now? Are my hands tense and gripped? And you might notice right now, how are your hands? Are they gripped? Are they already resting somewhere natural? And just notice. And once you're there, in your hands, depending on what you've done with your eyes, if you'd like to look at your hands, you might check out your hands. You might check out your palms. You might look at both. You might check out some colors. Maybe 2 or 3. Maybe a few shapes that are there. And then sense, what can I sense here? Is there temperature? Can I feel my fingertips and my thumb? And if you'd like, you might try something with your hands with me. We'll use both. And when we're looking at our hands, we can realize that my right brain is controlling my left hand, and that my left brain is controlling my right hand. And so this electricity is crisscrossing in the body, in the nervous system, in real time, and we don't even know it. And so when we are looking at the different sides of the body, we can not only realize that they are different, they're actually located in different areas of the brain. And so when we move them, we are lighting up different areas. So movement in one hand doesn't necessarily equal movement of the same dexterity or the same sensation in the other. And that's just how the nervous system works in this type of wiring that's going from our fingertips all the way up, crossing over, and traveling by right here into this motor strip with our hands living right here. And so when those signals are going back and forth, we can actually send electricity through them like we do in surgery and test the circuit. And so if you want, we're going to do a little experiment, and we're just going to check in and test the circuit. And so you can do that with your hands. And your hands have 3 different nerves that run through them, and they go to your different fingers. And so when you touch your fingertips to your thumb, you're activating different nerves. And so just move that back and forth, knowing that there's more than one thing there. See if you can sense in again. What's here? What's here as far as ease and effort in my fingers? Can I feel the pressure on each one? And just go back and forth for a few breaths, letting your breath do whatever it's doing. No technique. If you've wandered into thought, bring yourself back to your hands, bring yourself back to your eyes, and just feel. Not everyone has sensation on each digit. Not everyone has the same dexterity. Feel what's in your nervous system. You see, we know from surgery, and I know from working with thousands of patients, everybody's nervous system is different in some capacity. And it's usually different on different days. Sensation can be different in your hands on day to day. It's dependent on a number of factors. And it could be new. We go through a lot in our lives. Traumas. Our bodies go through traumas. We have changes in our mobility, changes in our language. And these are all accounted for through our nervous system and through our experiences in this layered experience. And so we might see some of those things present as far as tension, and we might see that tension in our hands. And so our hands might be this good clue in the moment when I'm bringing myself in to notice, am I overwhelmed? What's happening with my hands? If I'm having an overwhelmed thought, or I'm caught in thought, maybe thinking is not the best tool and not the best layer to keep going on. Maybe it would be an opportunity to go to your hands, check in with your eyes, check in with a body part that we know is sending electrical information also to your brain, and is sending it right next to the area that's doing all the thinking. And so if we can just check in and say, you know what? My hands are tense. Let me ungrip my steering wheel. Let me ungrip my cell phone. And maybe these things are happening automatically, and we don't even know it. Maybe we get a notification, and we're already in the midst of thought, and we're already looking at our screen before we get a chance. But as you're noticing here, with your hands, you can sense into this electricity that's happening. we might be able to use it as a tool. Because I know from brain science too, that our brains, if we look quick enough, in surgery we're monitoring the brain in milliseconds, how fast a signal is traveling around the body in milliseconds. That's how fast things are moving. And so the brain can only do one task at a time. And so while we're thinking, we're not really moving. And so what we can do in that moment is, if we're caught in thought, we have an ability to maybe just notice the thought, like we can notice our breath, and we can just check in. And maybe the thought sticks around, and maybe the thought keeps coming back. But there's also maybe a sense that it might have the opportunity to move. Move like our breath, move like the sensation in your hands when you're touching your fingers to your thumb. And so now you might make a small choice with your hands now, and you might rest them somewhere comfortable, and you might just try palms up or palms down. You rest them palms down, and if you have them down, what are you touching? What's the texture here? Is it cloth? Is it scratchy? Are you touching your legs and it's warm? Let your hands start to sense in some of the information that's happening in your body in another body part. And do that by touching it. It could be your leg. Maybe it's one arm. And just sense here. And as you're moving into here, there could be thinking that's going on. Could be looking around the room. Be somewhere else planning. That's all okay. That's what the brain does. Healthy brains are thinkers. Healthy brains are producing thoughts all the time. What we're doing is just noticing if the thoughts might have the same quality, and the planning and the overwhelming might go together. And if we can check into one of these systems in our bodies, our hands, our eyes, another one is our breath. And so let's move into our breath and just notice, how is my breath arriving? You see, we're not really taught a special technique to breathe through school. I'm in the United States. We get to be adults, and a lot of us are breathing not necessarily in the best ways. And maybe it's just because no one taught us correctly. And that's okay, because breaths just arrive on their own and have been since the day we were here. And so just check in. How's it arriving without any technique? I'm not going to worry about deep breaths, long breaths. We're just going to notice, how is the breath already? And you might be able to check in with your hands and use them as the tool again. And you might actually use them and touch your ribs if you want. And our ribs have nerves, one in between each rib. We can sense into those with our fingers. Maybe there's a sensation there. And then if we're subtle enough, we might be able to catch our breath in our hands. And we might be able to sense it arriving. Maybe in our chest. Maybe in our throat. Maybe you can sense it at your nostrils. Just see, where's it coming in? Is it coming in through my nose? Am I breathing through my mouth? And you're checking into that same quality, ease and effort. Is my breath effortful right now? Is it taking a lot to breathe? Is It's okay if it is. You're just noticing. Or see, we're able to notice before intervening. And in the noticing, that's where the signals might be able to shift on their own without needing to think about it. It's the opportunity for the body to sense into these subtle signals that they're already sending anyway. We're just taking the time and the space to notice them. And we're using our hands, and we're using our eyes, and we're using our breath. So when you're sensing in, another thing we can do is we can think about our breath in a 360-degree way. Breath hitting all around our body, towards our back, towards our spine. And you might even reach around if you like, and you might touch your mid-back. And you might find your spine there. And you might find your other hand on your front, around the same height. And give a gentle breath here, however it's coming. And you might sense in, can I sense my breath in my back hand? And your spine lives there. Electrical information going all around the body, all the time. And you might sense into the other hand, can I feel my breath here in the front? No deep breathing, just however it is. This is your breath. But you might actually vision it going in all directions, going into your back, going into your front, into your sides, going in all directions, in and out, whatever your pace. And you might switch your hands on your next breath. So take your front, switch it, and you might find your breath here. And we're all going to take maybe 3 breaths here together. I'm just going to open the space. Our number's growing by the minute. There's more than 76 of us here from around the world. And while our nervous systems were all coming from different places at the start, we're about 30 minutes in here. And it might be subtle, but our breath and our systems, even while we're distant, are sensing some of these same signals in the same time. And I'm grateful for that. For a community of us taking the time to just checking in on our breath, checking in on each other. And between your front and your back hand lives a nerve called the vagus nerve. And so when we breathe in a 360-degree fashion like this, when we send our breath all the way in around our body and all the way back out, we're stimulating that nerve. And that's a subtle signal to the system. That stimulation sends a subtle signal of safety. And so sometimes our systems, our nervous systems, are on alert from the time we get up. Some of our systems maybe have been through trauma, injury. Some of us have chronic pain. Some of us are carrying a lot for our families, for our loved ones, carrying their schedules, carrying their health, caring for them on a daily basis. And we can register all that in our nervous system. And we may not be able to take a microscope and say, oh, here's where this lives. That's not really how pain works in the nervous system. You see, pain is just a signal, just like our thinking, just like our breath. Pain is on the same wiring. It's on the sensation wiring, and it's traveling upwards from wherever we think it is, And it's registering in that area of the brain that we talked about. This sensory cortex, this special strip of brain that lives right by the motor side. So this circuit of electricity going back and forth. I'm able to measure it in the hand, all certain body parts to keep surgery safer, keep nervous system safe. We can also sense it in when we're sensing into those signals. And you might sense into a signal now in your body. And let it be somewhere that's not super painful, but maybe somewhere that's a little bit challenging. Maybe there's nowhere. Maybe there's a spot though. Maybe we can visit it, or maybe it's already been visiting us since we've been together for about 30 minutes. I have chronic pain in certain areas of my body from a car accident. And so for me, sitting is sometimes the issue for too long. And a visit on a certain signal will register. And so oftentimes when we get these pain signals, we want to change it immediately. We want to adjust our body. We may want to adjust our relationships, our communication, our thinking. And pain can show up in a number of areas and a number of ways. And what happens, like we talked about that wiring, is this idea that things that are wiring together are firing together. And so if I'm wiring in a certain line of thought with my pain, and some of it just goes together already. But just the process of it, definitely while we're recovering, while our bodies are recovering from surgeries or from injuries, we can see this pain in our bodies, but we can also see it in our thoughts. We might be able to notice it in our breath. That might be subtle, and that might be new. Maybe I've never noticed my breath before tonight. But maybe this practice of breath and just noticing how it's already arriving can give a clue into while I'm having that sad sensation, while I'm having that pain. And so the practice became for me, can I find my 360-degree breath while I'm in the midst of my chronic pain? Can I find my breath and just notice it? And maybe the quality's different when I'm in pain than when I'm having joy. It almost surely is, but we may not notice in the moment. Our breath sometimes escapes our noticing altogether. And it'll arrive on its own either way. So whether we're checking in on it or not, it's going to come and go, and it's going to become a part of this signal. And so checking into your breath and using that 360 breath if you can, when you notice. And when you don't, you're continuing to breathe anyway. And so our breath is just this other layer. And so we're moving through these systems. We're moving through our visual system, taking in the environment and all the signals. We're moving into our eyes and all of our muscle systems, our movement and our sensory cortex, and the areas of our brain and our bodies that are connected with those, with our eyes that are always scanning for threats and keeping us safe, knowing that they may be giving an over effort signal. And we might be able to notice that. And if you do notice it, and there is over efforting, you might see if you could turn it down 2%. And so what you're doing here is that you're not necessarily removing effort altogether. You're just giving a check on, am I over efforting? And if I am, is there any place of ease? And what does that look like? It might look like softening our eyes, giving them less input. It might look like checking on our ears, And just saying, what's coming in right now? Am I sitting in traffic? Do I have somebody near me that's causing sound? Is something just too loud? And you can just check in, because that might have something to do with what's happening and shaping your thinking at that moment too. And the thinking might move in all directions. Maybe your thinking's noisy. Maybe we have a noisy mind. Maybe we have watery thoughts. Maybe there's these qualities that our thinking is just going to move like a sensation. And you might check in right now and just see, has there been anything that's visiting? And if there is there a quality of gentleness? Is there a quality of ease that you can give yourself? You see, we're caring for others all day sometimes. A lot of us are waking up, we're immediately into our devices sometimes, notifications, catching up on yesterday's thing. Maybe we're not able to go to sleep. Maybe we're in our phones at the end of the night, playing our favorite game, scrolling on something interesting. Maybe we're up at the middle of the night because it's the only time we have to be ourselves. Everybody else is finally to bed. Everybody else is finally taken care of. And here we are, finally, a little space for me. And sometimes when that arrives for us, we're already fatigued. And our systems are already carrying all of that with it. And so I expect our arrival in this space, maybe it's something that we're creative with. Maybe we're an artist and we like to create. Maybe we're musicians and we like to play at all areas of the night because we get inspired and the muse has visited. And so being able to take advantage of these times when we finally get them, we may need to give ourselves some grace, knowing what we're arriving with in our systems at the start. We might need to give ourselves a little grace with our momentary breath, and checking in, not judging ourselves on our breath, and not judging ourselves on our thinking. Using the tool of noticing first. Can I notice before I judge and jump to something? Maybe not. It's very quick. The brain and the nervous system and thinking, it's all moving in milliseconds, right? So things are happening so quick. We may not even know. But what we can know is we can know what our hands are doing, and we can know that by looking at them. We can feel them. We can use them knowing that they take up a large part of our brain, more than other body parts altogether, and say, hey, there might be something here. I might be able to sense in if there's any ease or if there's over effort in my hands. Maybe that's a signal in my shoulders to check in too. And maybe I can sense in there and say, well, my hand is connected directly to my shoulder, and my shoulder is on that same circuit that's going to my brain, that's going right up through the area of my jaw, right past my eyes, and right into this signal here. And so we know it's all together. We know now that the body works in systems and not individual parts. And so we can use that information to know signals coming from here may be related and could correlate to maybe a signal here. And so there's no need to judge ourselves when we figure out. Maybe we notice for the first time and there's no sensation, and that's unsettling. That's just information. And so information doesn't need to be changed and doesn't necessarily even need to be addressed. You can just add it into your toolbox, knowing that your hands are sometimes more reliable for giving insights into what our overall system is than our thinking. Knowing that our breath that's arriving on its own, regardless of whether we think about it or not, may be something that we're able to reach for first and easier in a moment where I'm feeling overwhelmed, or in a moment where I just feel like I need to apologize for myself for even feeling this way. Sometimes when we carry these signals in our nervous system, sometimes these signals are guilt. Sometimes these signals are pain. Sometimes they're joy. And so it's this recipe. It's a recipe of environment. It's a recipe of you in the environment, the physical environment, light, sounds, and your body. Inputs coming in to our systems. We talked about our eyes, we talked about our hands, and we talked about our breath. And so those are three gateways, three doors that are accessible that may lead us into just a noticing sooner, more often. And that might happen in these moments of overwhelm. And what I found is that sometimes these practices, maybe 30 seconds, are helpful before I start my day at certain junctures that I've been able to insert them when I know I'm getting ready to shift into a new environment. And so a lot of times for us, if any of us are commuting and working away from home, we're getting in our cars, we're driving to somewhere, we're parking, and we're getting out, we're going in somewhere. And so for me, it's a hospital most days. Sometimes it's an art studio. If it's the hospital and it's going to be a stressful day, I take 60 seconds and I check in with my systems. I check in with my hands. I've been in Atlanta traffic, so they've been gripped, and I actually see that, and I can feel it in my fingertips. I can feel the tension, and I can say, okay, there's a signal. I check on my eyes. They've been in Atlanta traffic too, scanning, keeping me safe on the road. Just check in. I'm in a new environment. I'm getting ready to go into a new environment. What's already here? What's my state? That takes 5 seconds. And I check in on my breath. And I just notice, where in my body can I feel my breath? Sometimes it's in my throat is where I feel it first. And when I say, where do you feel it or where do I sense it, it's really the first thing that comes to mind. It's really like I didn't have to think about it at all. It was just, oh, there it is. I feel that you're in my throat. Or, you know what, today I do feel spacious. It was an easy drive. I can feel the spaciousness in my chest. My hands aren't gripped. My hands feel easy and soft. And so that check-in allows me to go into my work, caring for patients, moving throughout the day. And what it has done over time is it has allowed me to check in more. I catch myself checking myself more and thinking about it more the more often I do it. And maybe I'll catch myself later in the day in between a case, having an opportunity just to check what's going on with my eyes, what's going on with my face. So our face is carrying that same amount of tension. And we're using our face as a signal to everybody else around us too. And so even a smile is enough to send a different signal than a frown or than a non-smile. And it's not necessarily a sign to like, fake a smile. It's more that, what's the signal? Is there anything available? And a smile might be the ease, that may be available that day. And so it's just these check-ins. So we're going to be together for a little while longer. And I'd like to open up some questions about where are we sensing into our bodies first? Is it usually our hands? What body part sings to somebody first? They catch themselves in their breath. Are we thinking about overwhelm, stress, planning? And all these things might have come with you. And they might still be here. And so you might just check in one last time while we're together here, checking in on our eyes, making a choice. Does it feel a little better or different to close them for just a second and let them rest? Is it sending this signal of safety? I'm checking in with my jaw, my face, and sensing any tension, ease available. If your teeth aren't apart, maybe they can separate just a little bit. Maybe your tongue can drop just a little bit. Some of us are carrying tension in our jaws 24 hours a day. We go to sleep tense, we are tense all day, and our jaws are just alarming with signal. And it's not necessarily something to change, but if we can notice it, we might be able to bring a little ease there and notice that it might be over-efforting. And we almost might notice what's happening with our thoughts while we're sensing into our jaw and the ease and the effort that's there. And sometimes these signals live together. And they're right next door to each other in the brain, thinking, moving, sensing. And so just realize that while you're moving through the day, you're feeling overwhelmed, you might go to your body first. You might go to the environment first, and just sensing what the light is or the sound. And just there, you can sense all of us together, almost 100 of us now. And our breaths, each their own, are arriving as a community, focusing in on our nervous systems. And each in our own space, see if there's someone else in your circle, a family member, a coworker, and see if you can sense into what their breath was today. See if you can sense into any body language you may have picked up on someone else's hands or someone else's face. And just sense. Your body picked up all sorts of signals the entire time you were awake and was sending and sending signals the entire time you were asleep. And so it's too many signals to notice all at once. But if we can access just one of those areas at any time, we can start to bring ourselves in to the present moment. That might change our relationship with some of those sensations. And sometimes the pain never goes away. And sometimes the recovery is what it is. Sometimes there are no more treatment options. And that's okay. And that's difficult. And grief is there. And overwhelm lives there. And I see it. I see it at the hospital. I see it in patients. But also there is compassion and empathy and resilience And all those signals also live in the nervous system. And they live in our thoughts. And we can signal them in our hands and in our jaws. And we do that by noticing the amount of ease and effort that we're using, and not necessarily changing it. Noticing is just enough. There is really no next step. Noticing allows the shift of the electricity in the system. And something that I learned in spine surgery and brain surgery is that you can't control outcomes. But what we can do is we can set the conditions, and then we can just let things unfold how they will. Thank you so much for spending this evening with me. I have a few courses on Insight Timer if you'd like to check those out. I have some music available on Insight Timer to check out. And if you wanted to stick around, I'm going to shift into maybe one or two songs on the piano for maybe the next 10 minutes or so just to play out. I was going to play anyway. So if you'd like to stick around, join me. If not, thank you so much. I'll be back here next week, and take very good care of each other and yourselves. Talk to you soon. Thanks everybody for being here. Take care and have a good rest of the night.